Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at setting up and working with our anti-theft and starter control programming found in our Lynk G5 and G4X systems. Now, our anti-theft is going to be useful for essentially adding a kill switch to our vehicle. So we have the ability to block out someone from starting our vehicle if they're going to try to steal it, or for a variety of other reasons, but essentially allowing us to add a kill switch. Now, we can do this through a physical switch or through CAN bus. And in the starter control, this allows Lynk to take over, allowing the starter to actually crank over the engine. And then we can put some things in place in the programming that has a kill feature, essentially shuts the engine off, depending on what starter control option we're using. There's actually 3 different options that we could potentially use. So this can simplify the installation for starter control of actually actuating the starter and not having a physical key to turn to crank over the engine. So we'll talk about the different options we have in the starter control and what we have for programming. So it's pretty straightforward. So the whole video is going to be relatively simple, but we do want to understand how these features work. So let's jump in here and take a look at where we can find our anti-theft and starter control programming. We're going to move here from our VTEC fuel window. That's the page I'm in right now. We'll go here to layout and we'll jump all the way down to our chassis option. Now in here, in the chassis page, we're going to find on the left-hand side, we have our anti-theft, we have our starter control and start position. This is where we have to do the majority of our programming to get these features to work. Now, if we move over to the right side of the screen, we're going to find we have a parameters list. Looking down through here at the very bottom, we're going to have anti-theft, engine kill, CAN anti-theft request, start position, and starter control. These runtime channels will tell us exactly what's going on with either of these features. Let's first talk about setting up our anti-theft because this concept is super easy. Anti-theft will kill fuel or spark if it's enabled. The easiest way to implement anti-theft using our disabled input option is just adding a simple toggle switch or a momentary button to our vehicle that will allow it to essentially be put into this anti-theft state. So I'm going to demonstrate this real quick. I'm going to use digital input 3, and I have an on-off toggle switch mounted in my vehicle. We're going to find, in this case, my toggle switch, one leg of the toggle switch is going to chassis ground. The other leg of the toggle switch is going to digital input 3. So when I turn the toggle switch on, it's going to be grounding digital input 3. In this state, we have to have our pull-up resistor on and our active state set to low. If I was going to send a 12 volt in, so meaning I have 12 volt coming into the switch and then out of the switch, going into digital input 3, we would turn our pull-up resistor to off and then our active state to high. Pretty simple there in terms of how you're wiring your switch. I typically always wire my switches to low side type of fashion just because it's a little bit safer in case something shorts out in the switch. We don't have to worry about power running through the switch. Either way, simple enough to configure and set up. Now the last option here, input latch, this turns a momentary button into a latching function just like an on-off toggle switch. I would recommend if you're setting this up to put it on an on-off toggle switch and then hide that switch somewhere in the vehicle. Don't use a momentary button, but we technically can do that. Looking at this, we're going to find, moving over here to our parameters, we see the engine speed is currently 0. If we go down here, we're going to see that the anti-theft is showing inactive. If I go ahead and I turn the switch on, we're going to notice that the anti-theft is showing active. Now, also the engine kill is showing active as well. Engine kill is what turns off the fuel or spark with our engine. So we always want to keep track of our engine kill status. It's also tied into our starter control as well. And some of the programming options here. But we can see the anti-theft is on, engine kill status is active or on, so the engine's not going to start. Pretty simple. Now let me go ahead and let go of the button. We also have the allow CAN anti-theft request option. If we turn this to yes, this will require you to set up an anti-theft request on the CAN network with the link. A little bit more involved with this. I personally haven't had to use this yet. If you're taking a look here, the CAN anti-theft default state, this is either immobilized or engine run. Now, the immobilized means the engine's not going to start until the CAN anti-theft CAN bus is going to show that the anti-theft request is an off state. If you have it to the other option, engine run, it'll allow the engine to run until it sees the point where that CAN bus anti-theft state shows off. So it's really just a matter of which one you want to choose. Usually just leave it on immobilized option. Again, there's a little bit more setup work in the background to make a CAN input work for anti-theft. I'm typically going to wire it to a switch just to keep that simple. Now, technically, you can have both enabled. So you have to have a physical switch enabled as well as the CAN bus signal coming from a body control module or something else. Let's say it's a factory alarm system that's broadcasting that CAN signal. You'd have to have both in place in order for the engine to start, not just one or the other. You'd have to have both showing the switch is off for the anti-theft and that the CAN request is also showing off for anti-theft. So let's go ahead and just turn this off for right now, but we should understand how that works. So it's fairly simple. So again, you don't need the physical switch. You could leave that off and have the CAN anti-theft on and have that integrated and set that up through the CAN network, but I'll click no here. So we're turning. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.